Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our next session on ABAP learning series. So, this week we will discuss about object-oriented concepts in ABAP programming. Okay. So there are few basic things we need to discuss. So, if you see this, right? So first thing, to understand what is object-oriented programming, you need to understand what is a class and what is an object. Okay. As you all are from, if you have a little background knowledge on programming, then I'm sure you must be heard what is object oriented concept, what is a class, and what are the objects. Okay, so class is basically a definition where objects are like runtime entities of a class. So we will discuss this again, and after that we will discuss the classification of objects. So what are the different types of objects are there in SAP ABAP? Okay, as we have few fundamental syntax and concepts in ABAP programming, similarly for object oriented also we have few syntaxes. Okay, and that includes how you can create an object from a class, and how you can call a method of a class, how you can access an attribute of a class. So all these things will be covered in this object oriented syntax. Okay, then next topic we will understand what is an inheritance and casting. Okay, so casting is nothing but the typecast. Okay, and inheritance is if one class is dependent on another class, or if a class inherited another class, then the subclass or the class which inherits from other class can have access to some properties of the inherited class. Okay, so that concept is called inheritance. And then interface, then what are the object oriented events, and how in SAP ABAP there are different kind of classes like global class and local class, and what is design pattern. So design pattern is nothing but solution design concepts. Okay, so this is as a freshers or as a beginner you don't have to go in details, but design patterns are helpful when you design a solution. Okay, if your so when you have to design a solution for the business, then you need to understand design patterns so that you can design a suitable class interface for the business solution. Okay, and then persistent objects. So this is a complex concept, so I don't know, even I am not sure whether we can discuss this right now or not. Okay, so let's see, without further delay, let's start with object oriented classes. Okay, now coming to this, so the purpose of ABAP programming is to create a language only for reporting, or a language which can improve the reporting. Okay, so what is a reporting? So reporting is something to get all the transactional data or business related data and put it in such a way that you can draw meaningful conclusion from the data. Okay, so yeah, so that is what report. Okay, so ABAP was developed as an in-house programming language for SAP. Okay, so ABAP is not used anywhere, so it is only used in SAP. And as the ABAP is created around 1970s, it was influenced by programming languages such as COBOL and Pascal, okay, which are like procedural programming. So when it was created, there was no such concept as object oriented. Okay, in ABAP. Then in the most recent time, when the object oriented programming was the norm, then the ABAP was then extended to form an ABAP objects. Okay, Therefore you can see ABAP normally is an union of object oriented and procedural concepts in one programming language. For the object oriented programming part, ABAP objects adopted object oriented concept such as inheritance, polymorphism, everything from languages such as C++, Java, Smalltalk, like that. Okay. So before going further, so when it comes to object oriented, the first building block of the object oriented concept is a class. Okay. So this is our class. So what normally a class has, it has attributes and methods. Okay. So when it comes to attributes, we say different kind of data. So in normal procedural programming, we have data declarations, right? Similarly, a class has one section where you declare different data, and those data types or data are called as attributes, right? And in normal programming, till now whatever we have learned, we have written codes under startup selections, right, using subroutine, function module, or just commands. So those can be those coding parts. So as in procedural programming, you see there are different subroutines, and each subroutine has certain codes for a particular task, right? Similarly, in class also we have methods. So methods are like subroutines which has independent set of codes and which functions differently. Okay, one method will add two numbers, one method will subtract two numbers, one method will multiply two numbers. Okay, so those are different kinds of methods, and those methods are called as behavior. Okay, now let's see this passenger vehicle as a class. It has some attributes and it has some methods or data. Okay, now coming to this hatchback. Okay, so what kind of attributes it will have? It will have wheels, doors, seats, steering, right? And methods: braking, when you brake, it will slow down the car, and when you accelerate, the car will move fast, and when you rotate the steering left and right, the car will move from left to right. Okay, so these are the common things a vehicle must have, right? But when it comes to hatchback, you have four set of wheels, four set of doors, five seats, and a single steering. Okay, and the behavior of the car. So these are the behaviors of the car. Okay, when you brake, speed, so these are like functions, right? When you apply function A, it will increase the speed. When you apply function B, then it will slow down the car. Okay, so method is nothing but a representation of a function module in procedural programming. So method behaves the same way as a function module or subroutine behaves in normal procedural programming in ABAP. Okay, now so MPV, these are also a class. This MPV also one category of passenger vehicle, right? But in this case, the attributes are same. Like attributes will have wheels, doors, seats, steering, braking, speeding, steer left. Okay, so these are attributes. But when you create the object as an MPV, the wheels become 4, the doors become 4, the seats will become 7, and the steering will have 1, and these functions are same. Okay, so when you create an object as hatchback, okay, with respect to this class as vehicle, okay, the attributes of the hatchback is different than the attributes of an MPV. So the hatchback and MPV, those are runtime objects of the class passenger vehicle. Okay, that means those objects will have different attributes, means different values at the data level, but they functions the same. Okay, so if you consider this kind of concepts, so we have data as well as we have processing logic, and all those are combined into a class, right? See, here we have all the data declaration, and here we have all the processing logic for that data, and in a class both of these are combined. Okay, so this combining properties of data as well as code or process is called as encapsulation. Okay, so this is encapsulation. This is a new concept in object oriented programming. Okay, and this encapsulation also uses the idea that the implementation of a service can be hidden from other components of the system. Okay, that means what are those methods doing, this is only visible inside a class. So outside the class you cannot see what is the use of this kind of methods. Okay, so here the biggest difference you see from a procedural programming and object oriented programming is, in a procedural programming you have one instance of your program. Okay, so when you run the program, inside the program only there you have one set of data. But in object oriented concepts, in a same program you can have object as hatchback and object as mpv, so it supports multiple object creation in a single program using the classes. Okay, this is also called as multiple instantiation of a class. So going forward we will discuss some additional concepts of object oriented programming model. Okay, what is that? Inheritance. So inheritance, I already told what it is. So inheritance define the implementation relationship between classes so that one class can adopt or extend the structure and behavior of another class. Okay, the class which adopt or extend the structure of another class is called subclass, and the class from which a subclass adopts and extend the structure is called as superclass. Okay, so superclass is a top one and their properties is adopted by a subclass. Okay, then there is one more concept is called as polymorphism. So polymorphism is when instances of classes respond differently to the same message. And then event control. So instead of sending messages directly to specific objects, objects can also trigger events, then other objects react when the event is getting triggered. I know this doesn't make sense most of you. We will discuss event, a full session on events. Okay, not to worry. Now coming to this, what are the advantages of this object oriented programming model when it is compared to procedural programming model? Okay, so what is the advantages? So it will improve software structure and consistency in the development process. It will reduce the maintenance effort and less susceptibility to errors. Because the attributes and methods both are combined in a single class, and that method is specific to this particular class, so when you change this method it won't affect other codes related to that other codes except the class. Okay, so that will reduce the maintenance effort, and it will also helps in better integration of customer or user into the analysis. And this object oriented concept is more simpler and more secure extension of the software.